I'm live. I might have been live when I was off screen. I realized the air conditioner was on, and that probably won't come through too much, but it would drive me bonkers. So there's been a bunch of chatter lately about the new EU 14-day cooling off requirement, and as with everything. I think there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of hand waving and I don't know, like just reacting without fully examining the facts. Let's put it that way. So I think the first thing that's like really important to know is that this is what the EU calls the 14-day cooling off period, and it allows someone to like change their mind about something that they purchased. And in many regards, this isn't different than a lot that most of us deal with in any other business. And it's actually the EU's had this law since I think it's like 2014, if I remember my research correctly. The only thing that they're doing now um, is they're adding a button that requires you to that allows people to opt out, and it's got some like kind of annoying requirements around it that I don't know that I'm going to like fully follow. Like one of the things about the button that you have is they have to be able to like use it to cancel without logging in by just providing like other information. And that's like super stupid and annoying. But in a way, like I kind of get it, but it also is like, well, now I have to make this system that like looks at like people's order information in order to like determine if they're the right person. Now, the nice thing is a lot of e-commerce platforms are handling this for us, so we don't have to like build out all of this functionality to comply with this button. But there's some cool ways that you can actually make it so that this um, full refund, no questions asked um, thing does not apply to you actually. And it comes down to like how different types of products are delivered. So I know some authors out there are saying like, I won't sell books to the EU anymore. I'll just like turn that off and no longer do it. And then you have to wonder like, what about things like my Patreon subscription, or for us, you know, our school subscription for people who use our who are members of our school to get all of our good learnings. Um, and it varies for each one. But I guess sort of the recap for anyone who's just joined a little bit lately is on June 19th, which was when last Friday, the EU made it so that if you do online e-commerce on your website, you have to have a button that says um, that allows people to get a full refund within 14 days. Now, the interesting thing is that this like the GDPR law that I still am annoyed with to this day. This applies to EU citizens regardless of where they shop, which suggests that the EU is prepared to like do something about stores in countries outside the EU. In reality, it's kind of a if you're not based in the EU, it's a little bit of a come at me, bro, sort of situation. Obviously, this is going to be tuned toward like big companies like Adobe, who is Adobe's actually quite notorious for having like really difficult cancellation systems and whatnot. So you know that's who they're looking at. These big companies, they are not going to start like going after random author e-commerce websites for not having the 14-day full refund button on their website. But that being said, I mean, like you have to remember, like as an author, your job is to sort of cater to your readers. And if your interactions with your readers are go pound sand, that's not really going to look that good for you. So I think it makes the most sense to, in this scenario, especially to comply with the law that the EU has made for the entire planet. I mean, don't make no mistake. I'm annoyed by that sort of behavior. And that way the EU and any of your readers in the EU will just feel like at least you're not snubbing your nose at them. And especially if you're an American author right now, looking like you're behaving politely in the world right now is probably a really good idea. You know, don't go pissing off your European readers too much, especially because so many of us eventually want to start or already are selling translations into Europe. So there is an interesting side note though. There's a way to get around this and not really have to do it at all. Um, so let's talk about ebooks because for anybody who's doing sales into Europe, chances are ebooks are where you're doing most of your sales. Now, the interesting thing about the way the law is written, the 14-day cooling off period law, is that if well, actually, we'll talk about physical products first, actually, then we'll pivot into ebooks. For physical products, the 14-day countdown starts when the person gets the product, and they can then return it. Hello, Dennis. People can return the product, no questions asked within that 14 days just by clicking a button. But the interesting thing for physical products is the law actually does state that you refund the cost of the product and the outbound shipping cost, and then the returner has to pay for the postage for it to be returned. So I'm guessing, and I've not dug into like the mechanics of how this is supposed to work legally right now, but I'm guessing that they file that they're returning it, they ship it back, and then when you get it in resellable condition, you refund them, which is not really different from how anything works already. By the way, if anybody's like curious about this, has thoughts about this, and or wants to talk about other things going on, drop comments in, because I do want to talk about some Facebooky things that are happening, as well as my GEO adventures that I kicked off after last week, actually. So we'll be chatting about that stuff too. So the neat thing um, about ebooks is that there are some ways to kind of get around that. Oh, by the way, if you don't have any of the verbiage anywhere in your site, if you don't have the button and or you don't have any of the sort of like get out of jail free card stuff going along with this, then you're looking at having to basically offer them a free refund for up to a year and 14 days. So it actually does make sense to do this. But the interesting thing is that there's a get out of jail free card for digital products, and the way it works is that with physical products. Sorry, I was trying to read my notes and then keep talking. It's hard sometimes. The physical products, like there's no way around it. You have to refund with and return within 14 days. So you could just decide like, hey, I don't want to deal with like refunding shipping from America to Europe or something like that. I just won't sell print books into Europe, or if I do, I'll use a distributor, or I'll figure some other scenario out. Like use a printer in Europe to do that. So at least there's not crazy shipping. Anyway, but when it comes to digital products, which I think is what most people are going to sell at volume on their own websites, the countdown does not begin from, well, in a way, it begins from when they got the product. The thing is, it's immediate, and it expires when they download. So basically, they get the 14 days from when they finalized purchase. Like they've got that 14-day cooling off period, but the 14-day cooling off period expires early at the point of download if they download before 14 days. At that point, then boom, there's no longer the 14-day period, and then it's what's the word I'm looking for? 14-day period. There's no 14-day period, and it expires like as soon as they download. And there's even a way to short circuit that even further. So if you want to make it so that you don't have to deal with having a button on your website to do these returns at all, you can have some text on your checkout and add a checkbox into the checkout flow that basically says digital downloads are automatically non-refundable. So you just basically say that's one of the ways of wording it. A sort of a better way to say it is like this digital product is immediately downloaded and delivered to you, and therefore you agree that it is not refundable. That's the better way of doing it. And what you do once you have, if you don't sell any physical products in the EU and you add that checkbox for EU people to your checkout process, you don't have to put on the button. Then you've sort of like covered yourself with just those two things by adding the adding text and that they have to check off their EU, and by not selling print books in the EU, or just deciding you're going to deal with that. But the great thing about that, though, is that digital products sort of sidestep that whole thing. And there is actually a scenario too that if for subscriptions, so things like Patreon. Now, Patreon handles all this anyway, so we don't have to really deal with the mechanics of it. But it's understood that subscriptions are prorated in the refund. So with a subscription, you're never going to be letting someone use a subscription for 14 days and then refunding them for the entire thing. It understands that some portion of the product has already been digitally delivered, and that that portion of the product is not refundable at that point. So in all fairness, like, I know there's always a lot of like wringing of hands and gnashing of teeth and whatnot, but pretty much everywhere that every one of us lives already has some rules like this about product returns. And of course, it's good for you to understand the laws that apply to you where you live. As far as product returns, this is just a weird one because it's like GDPR. It's a scenario where the EU is sort of stretching their hand out across the entire globe and saying that this law applies based on where the the shop is, or the shopper is, not the store owner is. Um, I tried to invent a new word there. Hey, honey, and hi, Dharma. So, so I think it's basically moot. I think that you just the only real change is they want a button that allows people to do this sort of refund without having to log in, and I kind of get that too because sometimes I check out anonymously on different stores, and sometimes like managing my order after I've checked out anonymously is a nightmare. So like I like that they're doing this. I'm always annoyed. I wish that the EU would do a thing where like this doesn't apply to people who businesses under a certain amount of money. Because they're obviously not targeting small businesses anyway. So like they should just pencil in an exception. Um, so it doesn't cause like, onerous business overhead on people. I get not doing that for GDPR because everybody's data needs to be preserved everywhere, yada yada. But that's just kind of my take there. Um, so yeah, that's them's my thoughts on that. I think it's basically a non-issue. I think that just adding a checkout button saying that digital products are automatically not refundable, and you don't even have to do it globally. You can just do it in the EU. I think that's enough, and it basically covers this whole situation. Um, and that's that. So I don't think you have to add a button to your website, I guess is what I'm saying. Unless, of course, you're doing print sales into the EU, in which case you do actually need to add a button to your website to do this sort of thing. Um, that button could actually just be a form, even because like it still has it, they understand it's supposed to collect information. So it could just be a button that says like, you know, need a refund with or want to cancel within 14 days or something like that. Have that it's supposed to be conspicuously placed on your website. I think the footer is conspicuous enough because it's on every page. And then just basically has a contact form that has them put in their name, email address, and order number. And if they don't know their order number, like a description of the order or something like that. And honestly, then you're covered. So not hugely onerous, not like really that difficult to deal with. A little bit of a pain for like adding a checkbox um, to your I think the checkbox has to be explicit. You can't just fold it into your existing terms and services on your website that people are already agreeing to. That one I'm not 100% sure about. Um, but this is not a big deal, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm not going to stop selling into the EU. What I'll probably do is I'll do the two things I suggested. I'm going to put the checkbox in my checkout flow for people in the EU that says, you know, digital products are immediately delivered and and are not refundable, not are not automatically refundable. Could also refund them if someone asks, but they're not automatically refundable. And then I'll have a button on my website for books. If someone buys books in the EU, there'll be the button in the footer that says like, request a 14-day refund or something like that. And the problem will be solved. So I'm curious if anybody actually I'm looking at a ton of comments. I kind of wonder if anybody even heard of this. Jill said it's been being talked about everywhere. So I'm not besmirching Jill. It just doesn't mean that the people talking about it everywhere and you folks overlap in the Venn diagram of authors. So so yeah, I kind of rage baiting this title, the way the EU commerce law is making it do what. But that was mostly because I just kind of wanted everybody's attention so that you would know it's not a big deal and how to deal with it. Obviously, it applies most people in the EU. If the EU is going to come after anyone, it's going to be people in the EU. Like I said, technically the law applies anywhere, but really what they're going to go after if they use this law for companies outside the EU is if it's a multinational company that has some sort of presence in the EU, right? Um, right, Dharma? I mean, yes. like you've been doing this forever, and you don't have a lot of returns. I think I've maybe facilitated one or two returns from my author store. Um, and so yeah, it's like whatevs. If someone came at me and they're like, well, I want this refund 6 months later, and I get that because you didn't have the button on your website, I'd be like, whatevs, here's your $6, kind of thing. Like it wouldn't be worth my time to deal with it beyond that. Um, exactly, yeah, like Drummer just said, I'll just do it. I too am actually a bit of a scofflaw in that particular scenario. Like that's all my whole take with like the New York thing. In New York, like I predicted, when I was talking about like the New York advertising law with AI and whatnot. Um, I outlined like a couple different things you can do, and one of them is nothing. And I did the nothing route. Well, for me, I have some clients who are like, nope, not playing around with that shit. We're just gonna. Some clients opted to remove any AI from their ads, and some clients opted to just not advertise in New York. But actually the majority of clients were just like, whatevs, come at me, bro. I think this is the take du jour. And I don't know. I am kind of annoyed by it in general because I'm like, I got enough laws to follow without following every other country's laws on the planet. It's obnoxious. Like, stop having wars and forming a world government if you want to do that shit. Actually, get world peace if you want to do that. The other thing that I want to talk about is that I think we are getting close to Facebook's end of June, whatever the heck that they do. Yeah, Dharma, I agree. The sales tax stuff is obnoxious. The fact that people expect people in other countries to collect their sales tax for them is insane. Um, yeah, Paula, I agree. There's so many ads on Facebook that use AI. I also don't know how it's enforceable. Facebook does have a checkbox now when you're making an ad. It's on the final screen, the ad screen itself, and there is a checkbox for AI being involved in the ad. I'm assuming it puts some sort of disclaimer on the ad. I should probably test one just to see what it actually says. Um, but yeah, I don't see how it's enforceable either, especially because in New York, it's the attorney general's office that has to like sue you for it, or at least take you to court before you can be fined. It's not like an agency that can just issue a fine directly. It's got to go through the AG's office, so they don't even have like a bureaucracy set up to handle this. So there's no way that they're doing it at scale. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts there. But the other thing that's happening is I was doing today's Thursday, so 2 days ago, I was doing a demo and I discovered that the audience section of the ad set looked different again. And in my test account that I was testing in, as one does, I was not able to take a new ad and turn off Advantage Plus. I haven't actually gone and researched if they've done any press releases about this, because a lot of times, even when they do press releases about a change, like they'll just change the change in like a week. So I always kind of wait to see what really settles in. Um, I'm just bringing up my ad account here to show you guys. I think some of you are in our school classes, so you'll have seen it, but this will be educational for anybody else. It doesn't seem to be enforced retroactively though with other ads, but I've also had like a little bit of like, am I misremembering the settings on this ad, or did Facebook retroactively do it? Um, so your mileage may vary. All right. Too many windows. You mentioned that, Dharma, and I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. Especially like I mentioned in a prior let's see to find the right Chrome tab here. I'll just pop this out, actually, not do Chrome tab at all. This is like the time of year where Facebook is just changing everything. And the UI is really messy as a result. Like it's just there's so many options. Things get flipped on after the fact. It's kind of tired. Um, well, that's good, Dharma. I'm glad you're enjoying the class and learning a lot. I think the cool thing too is like everything in the class that Dharma is referencing is applicable beyond Facebook, other than some of the specific mechanics of the Facebook ad creation process. But the scroll stopping element of the digital content that we make is it's the same regardless of where we put it. All right, so let's see if this actually happens today or not. Only for sure. I've noticed Facebook's being a little bit slow today. All right, so it was on the ad set. Make sure everything's set properly. Yep, website. Leave everything else standard. And so an audio, okay, this one actually is different than the other one I was testing with. This one still looks standard. And it gives the old standard options. Let me pop over to one of the other ones I was testing with. Was it this new sales campaign? Let's see. Watch, they've already changed this, which is a great example of why um, you you may not want to like run ads right now because things are changing. But no, this is how it was when I was in there on Tuesday, and I've seen some other variations of this as well. Um, so let me actually go to the initial state that it was in, and it looked like this. This is sort of the new this is a new flavor of this that I landed on. Um, it's pretty standard. You've got the show more controls, you got your minimum age, and then you can also do the suggest an audience, which is so what they used to do, and you saw it with that other one I started. The audience section was broken into two blocks, and that was sort of the clue that it was Advantage Plus. Now, what you'll see in a lot of cases, it will say Advantage Plus on up here, and it'll all be in one block, but you'll have like the suggest an audience section down here, and the this is what we'll actually listen to up here. Um, and the button I got, this was a new button. I need a specific audience, and then I could switch setup and target a specific audience. Whoops, and it always scrolls down, which is annoying. Now, the interesting thing about this one, though, and this is why I think the next phase is for audiences with Facebook is what I've been not worried about, but expecting for some time. So now I've got one audience block, which looks deceptively like the old system, but you'll see that Advantage Plus is still on. And there's a couple things in here. So yesterday I was actually getting uses as a suggestion checkbox underneath age. Today I'm not, but it looks like pretty much anything else. By the way, they have this. Oh yeah, you guys won't see this. This is only for us because we actually have some apps that we've made. They're not actually mobile apps or anything like that, so ignore that. But it looks exactly like the non-Advantage Plus system, right? Got a regular age. There's no minimum age setting. Um, all that sort of thing. It doesn't say like suggest your detailed targeting or anything like that. But wrapped around it all, it says Advantage Plus. And the interesting thing is, oh no, they still have this little note too. I wasn't sure if it was gonna, if it was. I remember it being a different spot before, but I guess it's because the whole thing moved around. So what I think is that what's coming is that it's Advantage Plus for everybody all the time. I expect that they'll probably like start enforcing that on new ads um, this summer. Generally, that sort of thing happens in June, although if it usually happens around the 25th. So I'm shocked it hasn't happened already. Maybe it'll happen next week, or maybe it won't. Maybe they'll slow roll this Advantage Plus always on thing for everybody. I don't know if they will. Hey Yasmin, how you doing? That was a weird way I said how you doing. But anyway, this is what I think the future is. That whether you're using the recommended setup, which has like the controls it definitely listens to, um, and then the suggested audience, whether you use that or whether you use what looks like the old school setup, it's all Advantage Plus. And I think though, like there's a good thing coming out of this. And that is I think it will ultimately make the UI less confusing because it means they're going to reduce the number of options. And I suspect it will actually make performance better and more consistent because and the Andromeda ad targeting system isn't having to work in these like live in these two worlds at the same time. It won't be having to like deal with ads with competing structures and audience systems fighting against one another. So I think all in all, it's going to be a very good change. So yay. And like I said, I'm finding that if you run full Advantage Plus ads and you turn on most of the AI stuff with the exception of like creative changes. Um, it actually works pretty well. It can be very good. It's when you try straddle the line that you get problems. But that's one of the things I'll be doing this later this summer, once the dust kind of settles on whatever big change happens around June. I mean, if they do it, I'm just sort of assuming they will because they have for years now. Um, Facebook turn off Advantage Plus. Fair. Um, if you turn everything off, I think that's it. That also works well, which I've mentioned. Um, so toward the end of summer, I'll be doing like a recap series on what Facebook has done this summer and what it means for all of us. And then the other thing that we'll be doing sometime this summer is it actually comes out of like the talk we had last week. I'm pretty sure last week was when we were talking about GEO. I don't think it was the week before. Um, what Jill said joins actually only people on Facebook can see that. So this is where we'll be doing a lot of these classes. But the other thing is like we talked about, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it wasn't last week, if it was the week before, we talked about GEO, which stands for generative engine optimization, which just basically means making your website and your e-commerce store more palatable to AIs. Because whether we like it or not, people search in AI first a lot of the time. They're typing things into Chat GPT. They are they're using Google and just letting doing whatever the Gemini suggestion is at the top, which is also effectively just searching with AI. So the big thing is how do we make our site more palatable AI? And the cool thing too is that also makes our site more palatable to the general search engines. Whatever you do to make your site more readable by AI will also make it better for general search engines as well. So it was last week. Okay, good. Jill's correcting me. Oh, we're not doing the comments on stage. I wish that was turned on by default. I could have sworn I had it on by default. But we'll do wide. No, that's too wide. Regular it is. Okay. So so you want to be doing some amount of GEO on your website. And something I learned a while back about AI is AI loves structured data. So if you tell an AI a piece of information just in regular text, or you put into what's called JSON, which is a particular language for organizing text, the AI will actually trust the JSON more because it looks more authoritative because it's structured data. I'm going to bring something up to show you guys here. If I can manage to type, just give me a second. Plus LD. Where's it? LD plus JSON. There we go. Dun, dun, dun. All right, hold please. Because I want to show you guys what JSON looks like for anyone who's not familiar with it. Perfect. Format JSON. I'll put this one in. Boop, boop, boop. Format JSON. Good, it did it. Now I got to find the right window to put this in so I can share it with y'all. I'm juggling too many windows. I'm sorry. Actually, I was gonna say I'm usually not this disorganized, but yeah, that's the case. Yes, JSON is a markup language. I don't know that markup language means a lot to a lot of people either, though. So that's why I want to show. Stop screen share. Start screen share. Hey, Kate, how's it going? I'll read your comment in just a second. Are you saying Advantage Plus works all Advantage Plus works rather than straddling the line? Does that mean leaving off replacements too? No, I don't drink the Advantage Plus Kool-Aid for replacements. It's just around audiences and targeting, and then turning on at least a decent amount of the AI enhancements on the actual ad page itself. I just turn on all the ones that don't actually like invent new content. Okay, so actually now I'm going to turn off the comments. So you guys can see things. So there's like, so this actually is for, let me actually bring up the page that it's for on my website, aeon14.com. It's for this book, The Tide That Swallowed the World. So this particular page, like it's like a standard page like you've seen, you've got like cover, description, links and whatnot. And the AI can parse that just fine, but it will consider this to be less authoritative than this data right here. And so on my website, what I've done is every single one of my pages generates this kind of data and presents it to both AI and search engines. It's called the JSON LD data, and it's just semantically organized and makes the AIs happy. So one of the things is that I've got just some of the basic stuff, some basic keywords about my stuff. I've got the book's description. I'm using like special things like is part of book series. It looks the book series. It also lists the print and ebook versions on Amazon so that the search engines know this is the same product. And then also it has a link to my canonical author ID name. And I've actually got an about page on my website that lists all the myself and all the co-authors in Aeon 14. And every one of us gets like this special URL that becomes like the canonical person ID for you. And then everything on the website references that. And it helps like the website, like different parts of the website build authority in the AI's mind. And then I've actually got duplicate keywords. Oh no, I don't. They're labeled differently. And then these are actually the major tropes in the particular series as well that I've put together. And then on top of that, every page that I have has like the book themes, which are just the tropes, which I've got to fix. It says you to not say tropes right there. And then I like if you love, Ready Player One, and then it like insert. This is actually all done programmatically. I'm not like I didn't have to type any of this stuff out. So I've got like these things, and then I've got these things called theme hubs, and that was actually a big takeaway that as well that I learned about GEO after the fact is that like creating sort of like themed content on your website, and then providing starting points and stuff like that. It's something that the AIs really like, and they will consider to be pretty authoritative data. So this is mostly actually for the AIs. So I've got like human. I just have to do the breadcrumbs on this too. Forgot about that. This human partnership. I've got like an intro. If you like this particular theme, start with these books, and then also has like an if you love section, the tropes and the themes, and then it like lists all of the books I have containing the theme. And again, this is all human readable because if you make content on your website that's only AI readable and not human readable, it will get discounted because it knows you're trying to game the system. So I've integrated all of this like directly into my website, and that way the AIs will crawl it and know that it's all human readable. So they'll give it full authority. So this was actually all an outflow of, like I said, of our talk last week, building all of this out. Um, in addition, I I redid my where to begin page a bit, which is like this page here about where to start. And then this is sort of a big thing too for like bigger universes because the AI knows it's a big universe, So and then I had the AI make this quiz. I used to have this quiz was actually like put in um by like a plugin that I had, but it was like $5 a month, and like I just realized like, oh, I could just say Claude, hey, could you just build this quiz for me? And then you know 2 minutes later, Claude had the code to insert in my website that would just have my own custom version of this quiz. So creates this. Oh, did I lock up? I locked up again. You guys can probably hear me, and my computer has just decided that this is the perfect time to freeze again. I know a lot of people are moving away from Windows right now, and I am strongly considering it. This will be interesting to see if I come back, or if I have to restart my computer in the middle of my stream. Oh, computer, why are you doing this to me? You never have this problem except for when we're doing a stream. Oh, I'm back. Thank God. My finger was like on the power button on my computer, and then suddenly I glanced over and saw myself moving on the screen. So sorry about that. I don't know if you guys could hear me when my computer froze last time. You could, but if you didn't, I was kvetching about how like this never happens except for when I'm live streaming through this one platform. So I'm starting to wonder if it's the platform. Anyway, got the quiz, and at the very end of the quiz, it says like, "Hey, this is a great fit for you based on what you said." And then you can hit start reading. It will take you to this where it's got like the full blurb. It's got an option here for a. That's good. You heard me for a free trial for a free ebook and so on. So this was all done to improve the GEO of the website because this is all the sort of stuff that actually the AIs will soak up a lot, and it creates more authoritative content on your website and stuff like that. So that's going to be a thing. I mean, I'm going to nail down how to do it with Shopify. Shopify has some new entity types in their system that might make this actually a lot easier than it would be otherwise. And then the really cool thing about this too is that I use Claude to do a lot of these changes on my website. It couldn't do all of them because of how my website's structured, but it's entirely possible to actually have AI do it. And this is, to be honest, like there's a lot of people that are not down with AI, but I tell you, this is one of the best uses of AI. Because you can you imagine 130 novels going through, adding tropes to every single one, adding comp books, authors, series to every single one, doing some write ups for all of that. Um, I mean, it would have taken me weeks to do because I would have done it for like a couple of days and then like for an hour a day for a couple of days and just become exhausted by the idea and possibly never finishing it. And Claude made the majority of that like something I could do in like half an hour to an hour. I think it took us to get all those parts done. And that's it's made more complicated by the fact I have so many books and so we have to like export CSVs and yada yada yada. Anyway, um, I almost removed myself from the stream. I clicked the wrong button almost. So anyway, um, Dharma says fucknology. I like that. Um, I know, yeah. The people that won't use AI to do these menial drudgery kinds of tasks. I'm like, okay, like I do understand arguments for not having AI take away the things that humans enjoy doing, you know, and then leaving us with the drudgery. You know, drudgery is the perfect thing to pass off to AI. Um, and and this is like this is one of them. It's like, hey, you want more time to do the fun human creative things? Drudgery. Have the AI do the drudgery. I feel bad for the AI, right? So those were our three things. I think I've got them all. EU law, kind of no big deal. Watch the beginning if you don't know about the new EU law and what you might have to do on your website to comply with it. Um, and then the Facebook change that I think is coming, and I think I called it that it's Advantage Plus for all the time. Um, and it's only that particular scenario is only in a sales ad right now. Actually, I did see a flavor of it in a traffic ad yesterday as well. So I think it's going to roll out. Um, and just like even things like just like the Andromeda rollout and the some of the other changes they made recently, they never hit us all at the same time, even when it is like the final decision on what they're doing. Um, so I think that's coming. I mean, I don't like it exactly, but I'm optimistic in that at least it won't work any worse than it does right now. And I think it might work better, and the UI will become simpler as they make Advantage Plus targeting just the only way to roll. Um, so I really hope they don't do that with placements. I would raise hell if they do that with placements. Um, Although they added value rules for placements, which does make you wonder if they're going to make placements have to run Advantage Plus too. I just hope they'll give us more options in the value rules then. Anyway, and then the last thing is the GEO stuff that I'll be teaching a bigger class on once I nail a few more things down, and then also have some data to show how my website's discoverability and traffic coming in from AI searches actually improved after doing this. I've already got some preliminary data showing about 20% uptick in traffic that is being driven by AI searches. So we'll see if that's just a flash in the pan or if it actually like holds on before I say like, hey, let's go do a bunch of work to make AIs find your website better. Um, for author Logan Fox, yeah, a quick recap on the EU issue is that EU for since 2014 has had like a 14-day cooling off period law where people can get refunds within 14 days, no questions asked. Now websites have to have a button that says that people can click, and it will allow them to get their refund without having to log in or anything like that. So of course, if they can't log in, they'd have to fill out a form to give you order number, their name, what they ordered, something so that you can find the order and issue them a refund. However, if you're doing digital sales, there's a way around this. We're in the checkout flow. You just say that all digital purchases are immediately delivered and not eligible for an automatic refund, which means you can still give refunds if you want. They're just not going to be automatic, or not eligible for automatic refunds. So you can kind of get the whole thing for the gist. But the main thing is that it's some people are really worried about it. It's not a huge deal. If you sell physical goods, yeah, it does apply. Like people get a full refund within 14 days, um, if no questions asked. But that's been the law in the EU for 12 years now. So there you have it. Um, oh, that's cool. B Havana, happy to hear that. Business tech and computer science is they're very closely entwined and have been for quite a while. All right, folks, I am running out of voice and I'm becoming hungry, so I'm going to split. It has been fabulous chatting with you all, um, and we'll be back next week. Perhaps I'll talk a bit more about some of the GEO work I've been doing, or maybe we'll know some new things Facebook's doing, or maybe we'll find out some stuff about how New York is handling their law. But I bet you'll be that, and or other things we can dig into that should be good. So I will talk to you later. Fabulous day.